Hi and welcome to Yoga Berry, your yoga for scoliosis and back care channel. For today's video, I've been chatting to Jehan from JY Physiotherapy in Kingston, and I've asked her about cracking joints and popping hips. Is that noise in the joints? Is it something to worry about? Is it a good or bad idea to intentionally crack the joints? So all of this is coming up in the video today. I'm posting a new video every single week, so please subscribe to my channel. My name is Christine JY Berry. I'm a yoga teacher specializing in yoga for scoliosis. And let's get started with the video today. Hi and welcome back to Yoga Berry. So I am with Jehan today, and Jehan is a physiotherapist. So I would like to take advantage of this to have you here and ask you a few questions. And one of the questions that I always get, and I have myself as well, is about popping and cracking joints and knuckles. So some people do it intentionally. I have popping hips. Yeah. So I feel like when first thing in the morning, I move my legs a little bit and there's a little bit of a pop.
Okay.
Is that something to worry about?
Right. Oh, the big question. So I think there's two separate questions here, because I think popping hips, or a snapping hip as it's called in the medical world, is a different thing to, say, kind of manipulating the spine or the finger.
Like chiropractor, for example. Yeah.
So if you're kind of what I don't think is that healthy is if you're actively trying to manipulate your neck, which I see people do, especially if you're a gym user or something and your muscles get tight, because 9 times out of 10 the neck gets stiff or the back gets stiff. There might be some underlying muscle stiffness as well.
Yeah.
I think if your joints just crack when you're doing, say, a spine twist or something like that, there's no problem with that.
Because it feels nice,
yeah,
doesn't it?
Because it's a stiffness. But if you feel that you have to crack your joints to get some relief, then I think it's worth looking at why they're getting stiff so regularly.
Right.
And so I would say if it just does it as a part of your movement that you're doing, say, in the yoga, then I think that's fine. If it's something you feel you have to do all the time, then I think it's worth investigating that further, because it might be you're stiff and it might be that you're straining. You know, it's worth looking at, because I don't think that's a healthy feeling to have to want to crack your joints all the time.
Yeah.
The hip is an interesting one, because for many years I think people would just go through the movement, because the hip clunk or hip pop didn't actually give you any specific pain. It was seen as it was an okay thing. But actually, now that we're finding out a little bit more about hips and how they work, and basically if your hip is popping, it's probably a symptom that the hip is not happy with that range of movement. It might be that the hip is not strong, because normally when they'll pop is either if you're doing, say, the position where I see it a lot is if you're here and you're doing this pose, these ones, you'll have a clunk through the hip.
Right.
Or this one here when you're coming out to the side.
For me, it's opening out to the side.
So if it's just a matter of getting it moving, it might be also the what we talked about, the stiffness. But if you're doing it as part of an action, because in Pilates we have circles, so we do these movements. If you get a clunk or a click in the hip, then it probably means that the hip isn't controlled,
right,
either through the abdominals, so your abdominals aren't controlling and the hips working too much, or it might be a bit of overload on your hip flexor muscle. So there's a body of research which actually suggests that you shouldn't be pushing through hip clunks. So if it just happens as a by and by, you know, there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
Or potentially you could look at really strengthening up around that hip with your deep rotator muscles, your core.
So it's an instability in the joint, or?
It's not an instability in the joint, it's probably more, it does link a lot more to mobile hips. So if you've got a hip that's quite mobile, then actually probably what it needs to have more stability around the joint, because mobile hips means that the joint is moving a lot more, has a lot more freedom, and therefore we probably just need to be stronger around it. So the pop, we're not sure what the pop is. It could be, there's a snapping hip syndrome, which is the hip flexor, which is your psoas muscle sitting at the front here, and that's working too hard and it's snapping over the front of the joint. Generally, in my experience, what I found, I had a recent case where we really worked hard on her core, worked hard on her hips and her quad strength, and it made a difference to the snapping hip.
Okay, because I've always been explained it like opening a packet of crisps, like a vacuum thing. Like when you open it, something releases.
So that's probably more with a manipulation. So I think there is a theory that when you manipulate something, you let off some carbon dioxide. And what a manipulation is basically when a joint goes to the end of its range and there's a little bit of force applied, then it kind of, which is great for stiff joints. So if a joint's stiff, then that's good to do that.
But hips are quite separate.
Hips are separate. I think it depends on how you do it. 9 times out of 10, a clicky or snapping or a clunky hip will happen when the lever is an open lever. So it's when your legs, the weight of the leg is through the hip. It's unlikely to happen when you're weight bearing.
Yes.
So it's more to do with the load of that lever. So I would say if you're in a class and someone's complaining of a clicky hip when they're doing a manoeuvre, then try and shorten that lever or reduce the range so that they're controlling it without the clunk.
Right, okay. So
we want clunky hips, I would probably avoid. Just clicking off the back as a guide, as you're moving, rather than as doing it for the sake of just trying to manipulate yourself all the time, is okay.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you.